Hello, I'm Nathan P. Butler, author of a saga on home video and host from the Star Wars Home Video Library here on YouTube, and this is Star Wars Home Video Year by Year. This time we take a look at 2020, and this year is gonna be crazy town. It's been a heavy few years, right? 2015 was heavy enough with the steelbooks and the reissue of the complete saga and all, but then we got to 2016 and started seeing the Disney-era live-action films being released on home media. So we had The Force Awakens in 2016, we had some more Force Awakens and some Rogue One in 2017. 2018 was enormous because we saw the releases, or the premieres at least, of both Last Jedi and Solo in the same calendar year. And then 2019 wasn't huge. In most of the world, there really wasn't much to speak of at all. But of course, in the US, we jumped the gun and put out the first of those Black Border releases by releasing the 2011 cuts with new labels on Blu-ray and DVD in the US. All thanks to the fact that Disney had purchased 20th Century Fox's entertainment assets, including all the rights to the films, so they could put them out all under one banner as DVD-only releases, and then the multi-screen editions of Blu-ray, just the film discs, and digital copies. That brings us to 2020. The end of 2019 saw the release of The Rise of Skywalker in theaters, which means that this is the year we will see not only The Rise of Skywalker hit home video, but finally boxed sets of all 9 episodes of the so-called Skywalker Saga. It's gonna be a big year. We're going to be diving into it. It's the year of Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, the VR game. I always mention the VR stuff because I love the VR stuff. It's the year of Star Wars Squadrons, a AAA Star Wars flying game that can actually be played completely in VR also. The year of the 2nd season of The Mandalorian. It's the release of the Clone Wars Season 7 on Disney+, and it's the year in which Star Wars Resistance ends with no home video release whatsoever, which sucks. Of course, it's also the year of the COVID-19 pandemic, really shaking things up in the media landscape, including pushing the digital release of The Rise of Skywalker up a little bit around the time of the declaration of a national emergency in the United States. We're not going to go too much into anything related to COVID here, but suffice to say, it did change the media landscape a bit, though Star Wars was mostly unscathed by things like simultaneous releases in theaters and on digital platforms because there were no new Star Wars films coming at this point. The Rise of Skywalker sort of wrapped things up, and it would be a while before we saw any others. But it does kind of mark a peak here, because with no other new live-action Star Wars films coming in the relatively near future, and anything on Disney+, at least for now, not getting released on home media, we're going to see a huge drop-off to next to nothing for the next couple of years. And even when the Disney Plus series do start being released, it'll be a trickle of those. So this is really the last major year of this stretch here that we have seen. So let's dive in, starting with The Rise of Skywalker. In the US, you have multiple options, again, from the usual suspects. You have a DVD-only release, of course, as one would assume, with Disney Movie Reward Points, which at this point is known as Disney Movie Insiders. The name changed. It would eventually just shut down entirely. We then have a multi-screen edition for the US, which of course is Blu-ray and digital. That's going to be a Blu-ray film disc, plus a bonus feature Blu-ray disc, and your digital code slip here. Notice here, by the way, we have a gradient sort of effect on the Star Wars part of that logo. There's also a special thing called Maestro's Finale, a little featurette that was just digital this time around. Notice, by the way, that the bonus features disc is grayscale on the bottom, whereas in the past it has been color. That'll make sense soon. Then we have the 4K release, so take that multi-screen edition and slap in a 4K disc as well, and you have this release. That is our US standard slipcover, kind of the standard artwork underneath. You, of course, have your code and everything. The 4K disc being Kylo there, but notice, at least on early printings in the US, the 4K disc here lacks any kind of gradient. It is just straight white. And if you went to Best Buy, you could again get a steelbook that is essentially the Ultimate Collector's Edition. It's neither an Ultimate nor a Collector's Edition. The 4K Blu-ray digital version. This is the WWA steelbook of the time, worldwide art. You'll see this art pretty much everywhere. In this case, English on the spine. But again, just those same discs. But notice here, in the exclusive version, they got the label right and actually have a gradient here for the 4K disc as well. You see the gradient on the other disc, hence me pointing it out for the Blu-ray, but notice here you'll see that same kind of thing on the 4K disc, whereas at least in that regular 4K release, and we'll see elsewhere, there is a chance on those early printings that what you got will have just a straight white Star Wars logo for that, just a minor variation. Then Target, once again, had something similar to what they did with Last Jedi and Solo. So you have your packaging here with a nice slipcover on top, then your fold-out packaging underneath, which has your discs in it. It is the Ultimate Collector's Edition discs, right? So both Blu-rays plus the 4K disc, but also an extra DVD. We are back to those extra featurettes coming from Target being on a separate little, very plain DVD. In this case, it's a little featurette called A Fatal Alliance. And then along with your code, you've got a little gallery book again. Walmart again had a different version this time around, but thankfully not as crappy as what they did with Solo, where it was just a Blu-ray copy with no digital copy, so it's a substandard version of the multi-screen edition. Instead, they get this. Pretty nice looking. It's got kind of like a magnetic cover to it with the logo that folds out. Then an interior section that also folds out. Digital copy code. It is just the same discs as the, again, Ultimate Collector's Edition, so to speak. Again, the exclusives have the gradient on the Star Wars logo. And again, before somebody gripes about me saying that, remember I'm saying on the early first printings, that's where that error with the non-gradient logo appeared in that 4K package and where we're going to see it elsewhere. As was the case for the other 4 Disney-era live-action films up to this point, if you ordered from shopdisney.com or from Disney Store, you can get a little lithograph set here. I say little, but it's actually pretty big compared to the other one we're going to see, with, again, 1, 2, 3, 4 lithographs inside. On the other hand, you could have ordered through Disney Movie Club. They had it as one of their featured titles. They even had a big sheet here just about all those new releases that come along with it this year. But this time, there was no exclusive version from Disney Movie Club. There was no option for a Blu-ray DVD digital combo pack coming from Disney Movie Club or anywhere else in the US. You did get a little mini lithograph, though the envelope has now changed to blue. And they now have sort of this weird chrome effect type thing going on in the background, and for the logo with the actual image sort of squished up into the top section rather than being most of the height. Once again, very much like what we saw with Solo and with Last Jedi, StarWars.com did put out some downloadable covers to put on your Rise of Skywalker releases. In this case, it was 3, and it was actually like what they did with Solo, where there's an interior cover and an exterior slip cover for each. So we have this one here. Again, inside is effectively the same thing, so I'm not going to show you that every time. I just put these on some old unused Blu-ray cases. Then your second one here. And the third. The UK, for its part, went a little hog wild, so to speak, on this. Or what would that be? Nerf wild? Puffer pig wild, perhaps? A lot more releases than the US got. So they have their regular DVD release. Here, interestingly, with the DVDs starting here in 2020, we're seeing releases that are region 0. So they're region free from a player perspective, but still PAL, for what that's worth there. So they have a DVD release, and then once again, for one of these numbered films, they're getting 2 different Blu-ray slipcovers, one that's sort of the light side, one that's sort of the dark side, so to speak. So they have their Resistance cover here, and they have their First Order cover here. But inside, it is a regular Blu-ray case with this artwork, and again, the 2 Blu-ray discs on the inside. Those 2 releases, again, DVD and Blu-ray, also got buy and keep versions, again, through Sky Store. So you have the buy and keep version, just says buy and keep down here, not for resale on the back, but another buy and keep version there of the DVD. And the Blu-ray version has no slipcover, it does say buy and keep at the bottom, and again, not for resale there on the back as well. Then, of course, they had a 4K release. Theirs has a slipcover that just has that matching artwork as opposed to the alternate artwork that the US had. But again, inside, essentially the same kind of thing. Their 4K discs do have the correct gradient regardless of where you're getting them. And once again, thank the Force, they had a 3D release as well. So again, that red border packaging. For what it's worth, 3D releases will eventually stop in the UK. Thankfully, it doesn't come until a while after what we see here with Star Wars. MCU fans are kind of out of luck. I had to start importing from Japan. So there we go on the inside. And if you're wondering, the 3D disc is basically the same label for the most part as a 4K disc, just with that bottom chopped off and things kind of rearranged there, but it's still wet Kylo. And then Zappy had kind of a banner year this year, as we'll see also in a little bit. So they had their regular sort of limited edition steelbooks, their regular steelbook releases. So you have a 4K version, Just the same disc that you would see in that regular 4K release. We'll look at the steelbook in just a second. And they had a 3D steelbook. So they did the same kind of thing that they did previously for Last Jedi and for Solo. The steelbook, again, looks like the US, in this case glossy rather than matte. Usually the UK ones tend to be matte, as we'll see in the future. And still English on the spine. But again, on the inside, it's just the 2 Blu-ray discs, and whichever the third disc will be, either 3D or 4K. But those were regular steelbooks. For the end of the Skywalker Saga, you need the fancier schmancy-er steelbook, right? So fancy schmancy, but like with an on it to be even more so, right? So what they got was a couple of these. And these, once you take the J cards off, are very much like those Seasons 1 through 5 collector's editions of the Clone Wars in the US back in 2013, where you actually can't tell them apart once you've taken the J card off, because the package will effectively be the same. So here we have one of them, and here we have another. As you can imagine, since there are 2 of these, and it's coming from Zabby, yes, these are basically even more elaborate steelbook releases for 4K in one with the Blu-ray discs, and 3D in one with the Blu-ray discs. So what you have here is essentially a sort of metal case, slips off the top there. Then you have whichever steelbook goes with it. So in this case, this happens to be the 4K version. I would have had no idea until I opened it. A set of little art cards, 2, 3, 4 art cards, and then a little pin set here with the artwork there from the cover. It all fits nicely inside. They have their little slots for them, and it does have the logo there on the front. Unfortunately, no free junior novelization from the UK this year, from Sainsbury's, probably due to the COVID disruptions and whatnot. Then we jump to South Korea. They got 3 releases this time around, but unfortunately, no 4K disc at all. So what they got here was their DVD version. Again, I always love the extra slip covers over these and what it entails. And oftentimes different disc labels as well. Then they got a standard Blu-ray release, also in a slip cover, with different art underneath. But just, again, those 2 discs we'd be expecting. And it came with an envelope full of stuff. It's actually 10 little cards for the film. So 2 at a time here. We have Poe and Finn. We have Lando and Kylo. We have BB-8 and Dio. We have R2-D2 and C-3PO. And then we have Chewbacca and Rey. Not a great fit, by the way. You got to kind of fit them in 5 on either side to easily fit them back in the package. And then there's steelbook version coming from SM Life Design Group. You have packaging here that has art that resembles what we saw on the Target version without a frame or anything here. But inside, you have yourself a, quote, special booklet. And then you have their version of the steelbook. Interestingly, their version is English on the spine. It does have those same cards again. But interestingly, as I said, no 4K disc release in South Korea. So you only get your Blu-ray discs inside the steelbook. Not even a DVD with the Blu-rays. That is not to say there weren't any regions that had DVD and Blu-ray packaged together this time around. You can actually do that in Mexico. This is the Mexican version of the steelbook here. You got English, again, on the spine. But inside, you actually have only 2 discs. But the discs are the film Blu-ray and the film DVD. So which would you rather have, bonus features or the DVD copy? Personally, I'd rather have the bonus features disc, but if anyone tells you there was never such a thing in any region of a Blu-ray DVD combo pack for Rise of Skywalker, they're wrong. Just depends on the region you're looking at. Speaking of releases across regions, another region would be Japan. Again, you could get this with various stuff, like a little folder and whatnot, but it depended on how you ordered it. It came sometimes with the regular stuff too, so we're only looking at the steelbook here. Now that we're not getting any of those big boxed sets or anything, notice here that the Japanese steelbook spine is character portraits. But as we saw with Solo, super cool, 4K and 3D discs, different label on the 3D disc here, plus your Blu-ray discs for Rise of Skywalker. So not just Blu-ray in 3D or Blu-ray in 4K as we saw in the UK, but actually all 3 of them together. For someone who likes both 4K and 3D, Japan is very much the place to go for those. So you're not repurchasing stuff. As if I have a problem with repurchasing stuff. Anyway, then of course, because The Rise of Skywalker was the last of the Skywalker Saga films, episodes 1 through 9, we finally see another big box set. The last time had been that complete saga. We saw it released in 2011, reissued in 2015, reissued at Walmart as one of those holiday exclusives in 2017. We hadn't seen a bigger box set yet, and now we do here in 2020 with the Skywalker Saga. In the US, there was only one version, and it was exclusive to Best Buy. A lot of times with little adhesive residue on it, you can see there, which kind of sucks. But this thing slides open on either side to reveal a big album within. You do have digital copy codes, but they're for each film individually. And remember at this point that digital copies that had been around for the original 6 films since 2015 have been supplanted. Everything has been replaced by the versions from Disney Plus from 2019, or the even more special McClunky editions, so to speak. There's a little message from Mark Hamill, and your actual little album here is going to have artwork going across, but then for each film you have 2 disc slots on the initial pages, one for the 4K disc, one for the Blu-ray disc. But then if you go all the way to the back, that's where you're going to see the bonus feature discs 2 at a time until the last page that just has 2 films per slot page. Again, some people don't like this packaging because of the fact that it could theoretically scratch your discs. I have not run into that issue myself. Part of the big deal of this set is that every single disc that previously existed has been reauthored for this set. So, what does that mean? For episodes 1 through 6, these are the new Disney Plus cuts from 2019 being released here physically in 2020. That will lead to confusion because, again, those 2019 jumping the gun releases on DVD and Blu-ray with digital copies in the US, they have the 2011 cuts on them until eventually they start replacing those with the 2019 cuts, but there's no way to tell the packaging apart. Part of that reauthoring means new menus, and it's a film disc and a bonus disc for each film on Blu-ray. So you not only have your film disc with the new menus and all that good stuff, but you also now have bonus features kind of culled primarily from what we saw in the complete saga, but some from elsewhere, all put together onto a new bonus feature disc for each individual film. Whereas, of course, in the previous issue of the complete saga and the 6-movie collection was basically just a complete saga with a new slipcover, there had been a bonus feature disc for each trilogy, but not the individual films. Those bonus feature discs are, of course, brand new, so of course those are new authoring's here for 2020 as well. For episode 7, it is basically just the exact same stuff we got on the 3D Collector's Edition, so basically the updated discs in the latter part of 2016 for the film disc and the bonus feature disc, just with new labels on them. For Last Jedi, what that means is they've taken the 4K disc and given it a new menu. It's pretty similar to the old one, but given it a new menu, and they've removed Dolby Vision as an HDR high dynamic range option from the 4K disc. For the Blu-ray disc, they've added something that was previously digital only, which was a score-only way of watching the film, watching it just with the music on Blu-ray. For the Last Jedi bonus features disc, it has also been reauthored to add the previously Target exclusive Meet the Porgs featurette to the disc. Then, of course, Rise of Skywalker, those discs are exactly what we saw elsewhere here in 2020. So how do you tell these discs apart in the US, given the fact that the US had jumped the gun in 2019 and actually given us black border releases like, say, this one from 2019. This is the 2011 cuts on Blu-ray, and it's just the Blu-ray disc. Well, let's do a quick disc label comparison. In 2019, the logo is on the bottom. In 2020, the logo is on the top. That's the biggest giveaway. The 4K discs obviously have all the 4K stuff at the bottom and didn't even exist for episodes 1 through 7 prior to this release. For The Force Awakens, we go from this original label to this one. These had just been reissued in 2019 as well, but notice that even though the artwork is very, very, very similar, they did change the labels between releases. Likewise, the color scheme has changed for Last Jedi. There's the original 2018 disc. Notice the red and black logo. Here's the 2020 disc. Notice the gradient logo. Likewise, with the new Blu-ray film disc for Last Jedi, red logo, in this case down at the bottom, red and black. Gradient up near the top, despite the artwork being very similar. Then, of course, there were no bonus feature discs previously for episodes 1 through 6, But for Last Jedi and Force Awakens, when they reauthored those, they also changed the labels. We'll use Last Jedi as an example here. Again, it is the newest version for The Force Awakens, though, of course. The biggest difference being the logo changing, and even though the image underneath is the same as it was for the original release, it went from being color to grayscale for the Skywalker Saga in 2020 when it was reauthored. And yes, just like the regular Ultimate Collector's Edition 4K release in the US for those first printings, the one that was sort of standard, not a retailer exclusive, this retailer exclusive from Best Buy does give us the error non-gradient label for Rise of Skywalker in 4K. Again, this was the only Skywalker Saga box set in the United States, available only from Best Buy. But all new 2020 discs with a plethora of bonus features for all 6 of the original films and updated discs for episodes 7 and 8. More substantially for 8 than for 7. The UK once again had more options than the United States. They had their own version of the Skywalker Saga box set with the 4K and Blu-ray discs in it, just like the United States, just without the digital copy code. I tend to think the J card's a little nicer if you happen to keep that, but otherwise, effectively, the same release here. It's exclusive to Amazon UK. But then they had the option to get the Skywalker Saga outside of a 4K Blu-ray massive set. They could have gotten it either on just Blu-ray or even on DVD. So the Blu-ray set is this thing here. Open up the top, the front falls open with that message from Mark Hamill, and there are 3 different sort of albums in here. One for the prequel trilogy, one for the original trilogy, one for the sequel trilogy. They have 1, 2, or 3 on the back, and they're just little foldouts. But again, it is just the Blu-ray discs, the same as what they would have seen with the 4K discs in that larger set. But if it was 2020 and DVD was still your medium of choice, they had you covered there too, with a smaller box set here. Now, we have not seen DVD at all in the US yet in 2020 outside of Rise of Skywalker. Still a little album type thing inside, only this time it covers everything. And it's a lot like what we saw with their complete saga set with those plastic pages. So there's your message from Hamill. And then you have yourself all the film discs with similar labels here to what we saw on the Blu-rays and whatnot. But the cool thing about this is that they're all Region 0. Again, it's still PAL. It still won't play in a normal US player because of that PAL thing, but they've gone from being Region 2 to Region 0, which is noteworthy. One of the more interesting Skywalker Saga sets comes out of Japan. It's got this really nice, very glossy, reflective, as you can see into infinity there, cover here, but it's just basically a box. This is not one of those cases that slides out from either side, as we saw in the US or the UK. So just a little glossy box. A little Skywalker Saga, little guide sheet kind of thing here. The letter from Mark Hamill, still in English. Various paper bits and whatnot. Little promo type thing here for Disney Deluxe, their version of Disney Plus with The Mandalorian Season 1. And then instead of having one giant book, one giant album that everything goes into from the top that you're sliding the discs in and out of, which can be kind of a pain in the butt, that has the artwork, though, opposite each film with no slots, and then the other side that has the slots in it. Their art is instead packaged in a separate little book with a little plastic cover over top of it that still gives us nothing there, but still gives us essentially the same artwork, just without it being on those heavy cardboard pages with the slots built into it. It's just an art book. But then each trilogy kind of gets its own album here. So we have the prequels, the original trilogy, and then the sequel trilogy. The box itself has a nice, almost velvety kind of feel underneath it all that only goes up to where the little finger hole is. But what's interesting here is when you open it up, first off, they got these little sheets in between your pages. We see that with some other releases just to protect the stuff, which is nice. But what's weird here, and it's all squeaking against itself, is that this is not like what we saw in the US and the UK. This is not a 27-disc set, 3 per film. This is an 18-disc set. So you would think 18 discs. Well, the only format that had 2 discs was Blu-ray, so this must be the Blu-ray film disc and the Blu-ray bonus feature disc. It's not. They saw no need for a Blu-ray film disc if you were getting a 4K film disc, and that's what these are. So for each trilogy, It's just the 4K film disc and the Blu-ray bonus features disc, no Blu-ray film disc whatsoever. An interesting approach. But of course, if now we have 4K discs for the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, heck, even for The Force Awakens in the Skywalker Saga box sets, does that mean we finally get individual 4K releases of those films? Yes, we do. And Rogue One to give us 4K releases now for all of the 11 live-action Star Wars films up to this point. But remember, black border packaging had been introduced in the US in 2019. If you find an early copy of these, the ones produced for quite a while, unless it's absolutely one of the newest printings, this DVD copy with the black border, that is a 2011 cut. This Blu-ray copy, the multi-screen edition with the black border, not only is it the Blu-ray cut, it is also only the Blu-ray film disc. So 2011 cuts here, but now we get introduced to some confusion with the black bordered 4K Ultimate Collector's Edition releases that will be the 2019 cuts on those discs that we just saw from 2020. But this finally brings us packages that include the Blu-ray film disc, the Blu-ray bonus features disc, that are brand new, newly authored, and those 4K discs, the same 3 discs that we would see inside that Best Buy exclusive Skywalker Saga set, plus a digital copy code in individual packages. So we now have The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and The Force Awakens. Again, all these newly authored discs for 2020 that we see in the Skywalker Saga box set. And finally, Rogue One. Now, you'll see here that underneath the black border slipcover is a black border package, as we saw in 2019 with those multi-screen editions. In the case of Rogue One here, it is the same Blu-ray film disc and bonus features disc, but it does have a new 4K disc inside with a label to essentially match what we saw with the others with that big area underneath. At least initially here, though, we don't see a matching black border release for either The Last Jedi or for Solo. Let's go ahead and address what they did with that now, even though it comes later throughout the year. We do in the US eventually get this, a black border Ultimate Collector's Edition release of The Last Jedi. But what's inside the slipcover? It's exactly the same thing, down to the discs themselves, as what we saw in 2018 here. Meaning that if you get the black border release of The Last Jedi in the US, in the 4K release, you are not getting the new discs. You don't have Meet the Porgs on the bonus feature disc. You don't have the score-only audio track on the Blu-ray, but you do have Dolby Vision still. It's just a new slipcover. Likewise, the same thing happened with Solo. Here's Solo's Ultimate Collector's Edition in the black border variation from the US, but notice inside, it's just this from 2018 with a different slipcover over it. Now in this case, nothing really changed with the content. They didn't update or re-author the discs at all. So it's literally the only discs that have existed with a new slipcover. And to add insult to injury, they would eventually release this version of Solo. A version of Solo that is still the exact same discs again, but now the inner packaging inside the actual case itself is black border, but this will be released with no slipcover at all. So a lot of times we see people try to hunt down this one that's a black border slipcover but the original version inside, and this one that's a black border interior case but no slipcover, and hybridize them, Frankenstein them together to put this slipcover on this. But if you go out onto somewhere like eBay and you see this slipcover on a package that looks like this, that's not really a thing. Someone has hybridized these two weird releases from 2020. But that was just some uniquely American Ronto shit there. If you go to somewhere like, say, Australia, and you picked up The Last Jedi in the black border 4K case, sure enough, it has the updated discs in it. Likewise, if you got the Australian version of Solo with the black border, again, it's the original discs, sure, in this case, a slightly updated bonus features disc label there, but same disc content we've seen before, but at least you have a fully black border package. As we will see when we look at some other regions, when these are being released in other regions, For example, Australia got their Black Border DVD release in 2020, not jumping the gun in 2019, which is that in that region, they have the 2019 cuts on DVD in 2020, like we saw in that box set from the UK. So these, from over there, are the updated versions, but the equivalent from the US is not. Same thing with their Blu-ray version, 2-disc Blu-ray. They get the updated Blu-ray film disc and the bonus features disc inside their Black Border Blu-ray version, whereas our multi-screen edition Blu-ray and digital is only the 2011 film disc with a new label, no bonus features disc to speak of. And of course they had their sort of matching 4K version, but of course that is of course going to have, I said of course twice there, the updated disc in that as well. Before we spend the rest of our time here on the UK releases of 2020, the beyond the Skywalker Saga stuff, as we look at those individual releases, I did want to note one thing coming out of Japan. In Japan, yes, you could get these 4K UHD MovieNex versions of the films, but typically these are going to include your 4K disc and the 3D disc, if it existed for a particular film, along with the Blu-ray discs. This type of package, a regular release, not a steelbook, but Blu-ray, 4K, and 3D together, is how in the future many fans of things like the Marvel Cinematic Universe will be able to pick up 3D copies of films after even the UK stops issuing them. In this case, it wasn't necessary in 2020, but that was an option, I would note here, and notice that it typically only says 4K UHD at the top, not mentioning 3D, but you can check on the back, and yes, it talks about 3D there. Circling back to the UK here, before they even got their Black Border releases, which wouldn't come until a little bit later in 2020, they started to get the beginnings of what I think of as one of the coolest, nicest product lines in recent memory, which is a set of steelbooks. And you'll actually see these in other parts of Europe as well and whatnot, so it's not just a uniquely UK thing. What I have is the UK version to show you here, but it's actually a steelbook set that is essentially a matching set by using poster art that goes all the way from episodes 1 through 9, and includes the 2 anthology films. All 11 live-action films up to this point in time in matching steelbook packages from Zavvi. Awesome. And it's all the 4K disc and both Blu-ray discs for each film. Great stuff here. Let's take a look. So we have The Phantom Menace. I'll just keep taking those J cards off of here. Attack of the Clones. Revenge of the Sith. A New Hope. What artwork could it possibly have been other than that, right? The rather disappointing The Empire Strikes Back, because it didn't use the Gone with the Wind style art, it's just that teaser poster art. These, by the way, had an issue when some of these were going through the processing to put the shrink wrap on that scratched some of these steelbooks, so they did send out replacement empty steelbooks for those who might have run into that issue. And of course we have Return of the Jedi to finish out Lucas's films. Then we have our sequel trilogy here with The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. But unlike those Skywalker Saga box sets, it continues and also gives us Rogue One and Solo. So cool poster art used for every single one of these, and it's the Blu-ray discs and it's the 4K discs, all in this sort of matching set type thing here. I love this run from Zavvi, which again existed in other regions from other retailers here, but not in the US whatsoever. We got the short end of the stick here, as we are going to see will happen as well in 2022, but that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. Then, as that was still rolling out, we finally saw the Black Border releases in the UK in 2020. So they have a DVD run of those. They all have this little sticker that says, Star Wars New Collectible Sleeve. Except inside, for any of the ones where the discs had to be reauthored, you actually have a Black Border case inside with those, obviously, updated discs that we saw, like in their Skywalker Saga DVD-only set. So again, they have episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. And those all have the Black Border cases. Then you have Rogue One, new slipcover, but no reauthoring, so just their 2017 copy underneath. Same thing here with Solo with the Black Border DVD. with a regular version underneath. But because this came later in the year, they also got, as one of the only regions to have a matching set, a black border slipcover copy of the Rise of Skywalker on DVD as well. Although again, they didn't need to reauthor anything, it's just the regular version from earlier in the year inside it. And then they also got the same thing on Blu-ray. So again, same kind of sticker. Inside is a black border package, and it is the two newly reauthored discs for the Blu-ray film disc and the Blu-ray bonus features disc from earlier that same year. So again, we have episodes 1, 2, and 3 to finish out the prequels, 4, 5, and 6 to finish out the original trilogy, and then 7 with reauthored discs, and 8 with reauthored discs to finish out that chunk of the sequel trilogy. They then had Rogue One, again, no reauthoring, so same as in 2017, and Solo, again, no reauthoring, same as in 2018. And yes, because it was later in the year, they did get the Rise of Skywalker in the black border packaging here, but notice it is the regular version from earlier in the year inside. However, it is worth noting that it's kind of like an internal gift around that year for some employees. There actually was a black border interior case release of the Rise of Skywalker, but it was not for individual resale. And it was just the film disc inside, whereas this, of course, had the film and bonus features disc. So this was sort of substandard, but again, if you want to have a match, you could theoretically get both of these and hybridize them. And then finally, to basically finish us out, we do have a 4K version coming out of the UK. Is the 4K disc and the 2 Blu-ray discs, so essentially the same thing you would have gotten in those steelbooks. Again, black border inside for any that needed new authoring or were just brand new discs in some cases. So we have episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, again, all with black border packaging. Rogue One, that does get black border packaging inside, because it didn't have a 4K disc prior to 2020. But Solo still has the original packaging inside, because it did have a previously existing Blu-ray 4K set. Then, of course, they had Rise of Skywalker to end us here. Try to end with this one because it's the one where there's more question, I guess, supposedly. Here is the 4K version. It's 4K plus the 2 Blu-rays, but it does have just the regular version from earlier in the year inside the thing. Again. So, holy Sith, that was a lot. Rise of Skywalker, Skywalker Saga, and then all these other 4K releases, and then other regions finally getting their black border stuff, a steelbook set across the UK and elsewhere that has all 11 films. It was a heck of a year in 2020. But in essence, a swan song for this era of massive years of Star Wars home video releases. As we will see going forward, from here, it pretty much drops off a cliff into nearly nothing. We enjoyed it while it lasted, and broke the bank picking up everything in 2020. One of the most expensive years with some of the most releases that we've seen in any year of Star Wars home video. As to what I mean by kind of dropping off the cliff and going into kind of an almost dead era, like a life support era for Star Wars home video, well, we'll see that era start next time as we check out 2021.